Here on YouTube, as creators, we always tend to gravitate towards telling stories of the best players, forgotten achievements, and unlikely heroes. But I am a creator that likes to highlight weirder things in sports because I'm a firm believer that in sports, the weirder, the better. And truthfully, at this point in life, we are all used to seeing 50-point games in basketball, and it has become more common than ever to see no-hitters in baseball. And of course, in football, thanks to Patrick Mahomes, 400-yard passing games feel like a standard. So today, in association with Raving Sports, I am going to break down some of the most unique stat lines in all of sports. And what qualifies an entry on this list? Well, truthfully, it's whatever I feel. I asked my Twitter followers what some of the best are, and here are my favorite responses. Bryce Harper is obviously a household name and is associated with his power and constant dominance since he entered the league at just 18 years of age. So I am sure you're expecting me to talk about that power at the plate, but I'm gonna do the exact opposite. On May 8th, 2016, Bryce Harper came up to the plate versus the Cubs, and presumably the pitchers that day feared that exact power because in the top of the first versus Cy Young candidate Jake Arrieta, Harper would walk on just 4 pitches. In the 3rd inning, Bryce Harper once again was walked. In the 4th inning, the Cubs this time intentionally walked Bryce Harper. Moving on to the 6th inning, you guessed it, Harper was hit by a pitch in this inning, and in the 8th inning, the Cubs once again walked Bryce Harper. In the 1st inning of the extras, Harper was once again feared by the pitching staff and intentionally walked. And the game chugged along into the 12th inning where once again, of course, Bryce Harper was intentionally walked because why the hell not? And funnily enough, in the end, the Cubs' strategy actually paid off as they beat the Nationals 4-3 in the 13th inning. But this stat line is not just yet, as I purposely withheld one piece of information, and that is that Harper in his 7 at-bats saw 27 pitches, and he did not swing the bat once. 27 pitches and 27 takes, and just 2 of those pitches were for called strikes. This game marked the first time in 100 years that a player was able to reach base 7 times in a game without recording a single at-bat. Funnily enough, Nationals manager Dusty Baker compared this game to a hack-a-shack from the NBA, and this hack-a-shack-esque strategy paid off for the end in the Cubs, but still, this stat line from Harper is both mind-blowing and hard to understand out how this was even possible. Speaking of Shaq, or more specifically speaking in the NBA, sorry, I'm working on my transition game still. When seeing an NBA floor for 28 minutes, you were more than likely being a net positive for your team, and ideally you are filling up the stat sheet. But for one man, this was not the case at all. On February 24th, 2017, Tony Snell logged 28 minutes in a game versus the Utah Jazz, and in a way, that would be the only stat he logged that game. Snell had 0 points, 0 assists, 0 rebounds, 0 steals, 0 blocks, and he had 1 personal foul, so there's that. And there's not much backstory to this game. He just went out and seemingly did nothing. But neither could the rest of the Bucks, as they would wind up losing this game 109-95. But this game actually birthed a whole genre of stat lines, and now whenever a player has this type of dud game, people will call it a Snell. Like when PJ Tucker had 0 points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks against the Nuggets, people will say, well, PJ Tucker pulled a Tony Snell. And obviously, this is not the first time it's ever happened. It's just this screenshot here, or graphic, is so iconic that, well, in the social media era of basketball, Tony Snell will be forever tied with this graphic and vice versa. And I'm sure as I've been speaking about this, I've been throwing up other examples because there are countless, and it's very fun and fits my list perfectly. Let's quickly hop over to football, where one of the most dominant running backs of all time put up one of the most confusing stat lines ever. Week 1 of the 2004 season, Jerome Bettis rushes 5 times for 1 yard and gets 3 touchdowns. And that's not a typo, that's what this graphic says, and I even Googled it, and Google never lies. And then I found a YouTube video with proof, so I promise this actually happened. But this is a stat line that truly hurts your head when you do look back on it. All of these rushes came at the goal line to try and punch the football in for a touchdown. On 3 of these attempts, obviously he was able to score a touchdown, and on 2, he got stuffed for a loss. And for my fellow viewers that are not great at math, this would boil down to just 0.2 yards per carry that game, and the Steelers would need every single 0.2 that Bettis earned en route to a 24-21 win over the Raiders. And if my research has proved me correct, this is the most touchdowns paired with the least amount of yards in a single game, and I'm pretty sure that this one is going to be hard to break, but records are meant to be broken, so let's wait and see. Was Bettis efficient or was he just lucky that game? Well, I will let you be the judge, but let's stick with football and let's talk about one of the most efficient stat lines I've ever seen from a wide receiver. On Thanksgiving Day 1998, the Minnesota Vikings were in Dallas to face the Cowboys, and Randy Moss would make an impact and make it look easy. With just 3 catches, it can become hard to leave an everlasting mark on a game that we remember to this very day, but Moss took each catch for a touchdown en route to having 163 total yards in a big 46-36 point win versus the Cowboys that day. Was Moss carving up the defense, or was he just extremely efficient with his 3 catches? Well, I'll let you pick a side for that. But I'm sure we can all agree as sports fans, every good stat line must have an iconic graphic or image associated, and for Randy Moss's case, some of you will instantly recognize this one here. Let's switch gears and let's talk about triple doubles, and no, not that one that you're thinking about, but rather a pitcher's triple double in baseball. And before I start, I want to say this is not an official term, and I'm pretty sure that I made it up, but who knows, I'm sure someone else out there has said this before, and I hope they have, because I phrase this as when a pitcher gives up 10 runs, 10 hits, and 10 earned runs in a game. This instance is becoming more rare than ever, as pitchers seem to be on thinner leashes than ever before, but funnily enough, this actually occurred recently with Patrick Corbin versus the Diamondbacks. In just a whopping 3 innings of work, Patrick Corbin would give up 13 hits, 11 runs, and 10 of those were earned runs against him. And I mean, come on. If it had to be any pitcher to have this stat line, of course it was Nationals legend Patrick Corbin. It felt like the perfect mix. A pitcher who isn't that great, but got paid a lot of money, was just trying to get through the game, and well, he got hit around pretty badly in just 3 innings of work, but the Nationals weren't in a position to really bring out the bullpen, so they tried to hold on as long as possible. They eventually pulled him, and well, the game was already over by that point, but what Patrick Corbin left behind was these types of screenshots that show us a pitcher's triple-double. And from here on out, I implore everyone, please look out for extra poor performances by pitchers and maybe look and see if they could qualify for being a pitcher's triple-double. It'll take a lot of work and it'll take a lot of suck, but hopefully every once in a while this will pop up. Let's stick with pitchers because pitching stat lines honestly are truly some of the ones that can broadcast the highest of highs and lowest of lows in all of sport. But what happens if you combine these two? Well, then you'll probably get Edwin Jackson's 2010 no-hitter versus the Rays. For most pitchers, 8 walks in a game would absolutely derail your performance, leading to an early exit. However, this would not be the case for Edwin Jackson, as he pitched 149 pitches in this game, leading to his no-hitter, all while having 8 walks. So 2 things in this game happen that almost never happen in today's league anymore. First off, 149 pitches seems absolutely impossible, as the new limit, no matter what, is set around 100, and let's say 115 is the absolute max players should go, depending on if they have a no-hitter going or not. And furthermore, as a society, unfortunately, we all agree that if you walk 8 people in a game, well, that's just not your best effort on the mound. And even further, as a society, we love a no-hitter. So when we have a no-hitter combined with 8 walks, we're left with only one question. Was that actually a good game? And well, for the sake of this video, I love some positivity. And sure, I'd like to think that Edwin Jackson's game on that very night was, a great performance. But you guys can be the judge on that one. Real quickly, I would like to jump on over to the NBA and talk about the highest paid player on the Philadelphia 76ers last season. Tobias Harris was the highest paid player on the Sixers, and surprising to no one, his play didn't really back it up. Last season, in an elimination game in the playoffs, Tobias Harris put up this stat line, and I don't really want to expand on it. I just really don't like the guy, and he kind of ruined my life. So yeah, let's move on. Sticking with basketball for a second, Rajon Rondo, as many of you might know, is one of the better point guards of all time, especially when it comes to moving the rock and just being an absolute point god by setting his players up around him for a basket. This was put on full display with one of the most unique stat lines in all of basketball that I've personally ever actually laid eyes on. And because, to be honest, it looks like the numbers are in the wrong spot when you look at this graphic. 2 points, 25 assists, 7 rebounds, and just 3 turnovers. I mean, are you kidding? It feels like the 25 and the 2 are in the wrong spot, but no, it's just a staggering 2 points and then a mind-blowing 25 assists. And this is nothing new, the 25 assist part of the stat line, because players have gotten up to 30 assists in one NBA game, but all of them seemingly had at least double-digit points to go along with it. Rondo this game, well, he could only care about one thing, and that was passing the ball, and he could care less about scoring. He just wanted to get his teammates involved, and it worked out, as the Pelicans would beat the Nets by 15 points that night. On the complete opposite of this basketball spectrum, we would end up with Carmelo Anthony. Everyone knows he's a bucket getter and has been since his very first day of NBA action. On January 24th, 2014, Melo set out to get his new career high with 62 points, and en route to those 62 points, he only had one goal in mind: get the ball, hold on to it, and shoot. Carmelo this game grabbed 13 rebounds and shot the ball 35 total times. And along with this, well, he had 0 assists. And I would like to imagine, for the sake of my own enjoyment, he did not pass the ball even once, which is a lie, but hey, just let me be on this one. Luckily, we got this iconic graphic, which is sure doctored a little bit to emphasize his stat line, but nonetheless, this fits perfectly into this video. Going back over to football, I would like to share some of the most important graphics and stats that I have ever seen. Like this one time when Matthew Stafford had a game to remember. And no, it was not a career high in touchdowns or yards thrown, but he changed his gloves 4 times in total this game. It is unclear if this personal record is also an NFL record, but one can only assume that this record will never be broken. It is cool to get both an odd stat line and a potential record breaker in one. And I mean, how cool. And if you guys haven't known about this, where have you been? Or how about that one time when rookie Joe Burrow met veteran Philip Rivers? The up-and-coming stud had promising numbers to start his career, but when his numbers were put next to Rivers, you can understand that he had a very long way to go before he could make a name for himself. A 15-year age difference, almost 60,000 passing yards between them, nearly 400 passing touchdowns, and oh, well, Joe had one less rushing touchdown, so that wasn't too bad. But the most eye-popping stat is knowing Joe Burrow may never come close to the last category on this list. Philip Rivers had a 9-child lead on Joe Burrow. If this lead is ever lost, it would be worse than Britain blowing a 13-colony lead on American soil, but only time will tell. And what do you guys think? Does Joe have it in him to overtake Rivers in every major category? Where will Rivers go down as the greatest to ever do it? I sincerely apologize for this section. At the end of the day, I'm sure there are countless examples that I could pull from, and I will ask you all to comment your favorite ones that could follow this wacky category, and maybe I'll make a part 2 in the future. But first, let's wrap this up with the moment out of Cars 3 when Lightning McQueen could no longer keep up with the field. Klay Thompson, as we all know, is one of the greatest shooters to ever touch a basketball in NBA history, so it becomes increasingly hard to fathom his last game with the Warriors and how it went as poorly as it did. They say shooters shoot, right? Well, that's what they say, and I'm not sure who they are, but they say it. Klay kept shooting this game, and he missed every single shot. 0 of 10 from the field, 0 of 6 from 3, and 0 total points that night versus the Kings. It felt almost like a sad ending to one of the best books you have ever read. All the highs he had with Golden State seemingly diminished that night, and sadly enough, the story that he had been a part of went up in flames and would not be rewritten, as Klay Thompson had moved on from Golden State and plans to play for the Dallas Mavericks going forward. And I am aware that this stat line is not that crazy or hard to imagine because it has happened probably hundreds of times. But knowing the history of Klay Thompson and the highs he had reached and his ability to be one of the most prestigious players in the league, it became rather eye-opening to see his fall from grace and see how it ended in one of the worst ways anyone could ever imagine. So thanks a lot, NBA scriptwriters, for doing him dirty like that. Alright everyone, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed the video, and goodbye, and I will see you next time. Or not. Give me a rating in the comments below. Pretend this is Uber and I've been your Uber driver. Alright, bye-bye.